Okay, again I started programming before remembering to record the live coding, but I think I stopped just in time. Today's problem basically makes us solve two issues. The first issue we need to solve is how to parse this data where password data is spanning multiple lines, but every blank line separates a single password data. And then next we need to make sure that we parse all the key value pairs in the passport data, see if all the files are there except the CID can be omitted to determine if they're valid. So I had already started parsing the passport data that just reads all the lines in, and as long as it doesn't read an empty line, it must be more data for the same password file. And then that ultimately results in a p-lines stem where every passport data is in one line in that stem. And then I started building a loop around those passport lines and thinking I needed a formula, a function to determine if it's a valid passport or not. Just to see what we have now, because it always returns 1, so every passport line is valid, and I've got my test data or the real data in here already, so it turns out alright. It's reading all the data, and now we need to go and parse it. So we need to think of a formula that takes that line. Maybe we want to see one line, but that line is just all this data concatenated in one big line. We need to chop that apart and then make sure to see if all the keywords are there with a value, and then if the CID is not there, it's good enough, right? Then it doesn't matter. But thinking about this, it kind of looks like a where are we here? Right, all these fields need to be there, so we can see this as sort of a bitmap. Maybe a bitmap is the right word, right? Where we can say that that we need some data in this file, and we need to make sure all all those fields are there. So the fields that we are looking for are the beer field, the issue year, the wow, typos galore, EYR, the height, the hair color, the eye color, personal identifier, and the country identifier, that one that can be empty. And I'm thinking if we can see this as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bit field, right? We can just flip the bits and set them to on or off whether the field is there or not, and then we can see that it's 2 to the power 8. So if all the fields are there, it's 254, and if the CID is missing, it's 55 if they're all there, and 254 if that one is missing, right? Because the next power up is going to be 256. Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds kind of good. So we need to walk through the key value pairs and get them out of there. So let's first walk through the all the key value pairs. I think we call that the do key value index is 1 to the number of words in that line of passport data. That sounds good. So now we're iterating through every word just to see if that works. We're gonna blatantly say word p data, comma, key value index. Let's see what that does. We probably need the attention key. Yeah, see, splitting them all up. That is good. So now we get all those key value pairs. Attention is always good. We get all those key value pairs into the KVI word of p data. So we can probably say the key value pair equals that. And then we bring in our parse friend, parse var, the key value pair, and we know what it looks like. It looks like the key and a colon please, and the value. Must say key, that should work, right? Key K and value V. Let's run it again. That looks good. That looks good. So now that we have the key and the value, we can go and see if they're all there. Maybe put that here for my own, see if that works. So this is the 2 to the 128, and then this 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, and 1. That looks good. So we're just going to do a case switch select thing. If it's anything else, then all those values, so our otherwise clause would be that, I don't know, it's bad. Figure that out. And how do we sum these? Well, how do we sum these? The sum is 0. When our key is the birth year, then sum equals sum plus 128. And I think we can just repeat that. Repeat. And we get the issue year. That's one less, right? One power of 2 less, to be honest. So 64. Then we get this one, which is 32. The next one is, scroll up here, easier to see all in one view. There's a typo there as well. There's HGT. So when HGT and the key is HTT, we count it as 16, or at least that bit is flipped on. And when K equals hair color, then the sum equals the sum plus 8. And when K equals the eye color, then sum equals sum plus 4. And when K, it's getting boring, equals the PID, then sum equals sum plus 2. And when K equals PID, then sum equals sum plus 1. Otherwise, it's terrible, so we can set the sum to 0. And then we just return the sum. Well, we'll return some rum, would be good on a Friday. Return the rum, and then let's do a mental test here. So if all the fields are filled, right, it's 255, right? So if x equals 255, but we can miss the CID. Look at the typos. We can miss the CID. Otherwise, let's go there with a little cursory. Or x equals 254, because that's when it has all these fields, but not that one. Then it's valid. Yeah, so that kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense. 219.